Hello, Oracles. How are you today? I got Vinny's going to be hopping on in a moment here. My goodness, what a day! Pushing up to $900. Oh, good golly, that was a wonderful day today. Kind of upset a little bit with myself. I followed my instincts. I followed my plan. In my IRA, my two lowest cost shares, I had put a sell order in for a 1% limit stop. Got stopped out of them both at around 850. It happens, not a big deal. I made about $100 on them, so I'm fine with that. I still have four in there. My main portfolio, not touching, still adding to that. But yeah, what an awesome day today. So I'll be looking for. I don't know if we're gonna. Oh, hold on, let me get Vinny back in here. There we go. What's going on, Vin?
How's it going?
Pretty darn good, man. Look at the day today.
I know. Did you hear the news?
What news?
The recession's canceled.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's totally canceled. Yeah, that's funny. And something that we had been talking about pretty much all year is, are we going to just get a paper recession? And right now, that's what it feels like. I mean, we felt like we were in a recession. The market obviously was trading like we were in a recession. Now we've got the numbers that show that we're in a recession, but are we really? And then we've got the president and Janet Yellen are like, hey, this isn't really a recession. There's other numbers that go into it. So, we'll see how we go forward and trend, but definitely, if this is how a recession is going to be, I'm on board with it.
Yeah, it's funny how they're moving the goalposts now, but there's some valid points to it. With it's kind of hard to imagine having a recession when you have unemployment at what 3.6%.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a unique time. And recession or not a recession, however you want to look at it, because it doesn't follow the traditional metrics.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm going to still pay attention to, obviously this isn't for me, it's not like all right, this is my green light to go all in. I'm not, like, all right, we've passed the hurdle, this is it. Still keeping my eyes open for what's going to be happening in the future. We still have big companies doing a lot of layoffs. There's hiring freezes going on. So this is going to change the unemployment levels. So maybe now we're just going to find that balance. So there's still going to be a rocky road, but I think if we can find that balance, and the CPI data on the 10th is really going to be a huge signal. We'll probably have some uncertainty going into it. But if we do end up getting that lower number, as long as we're trending down, especially if it's a big trend down, the big number I'm looking for is a 7 in front of the CPI data. I think if we get that, we can continue this. And one of the things I want to pay attention to also is one of my subscribers, Seed, seems to have some inside information that nobody else does. I don't know who he is. I don't know what information he gets, but he's been right about things and talking about the S&P at 4,000. And he said, if we cross 4,000 in the S&P, we're going to see a massive gamma squeeze going on. Clearly, we saw that happening the last couple of days. So is this just a gamma squeeze that we're going to all of a sudden get pulled back on? I don't know, but it's definitely something to keep my eye on. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to enjoy this for sure. But I don't think this kind of a run is going to be sustainable.
Yeah, and the other thing that is interesting, I was trying to catch up on some of the earnings calls, and it's a very mixed bag. You have like it always, and what keeps happening, same thing happened in the first quarter. It was like the first major report we got was Walmart, and it was a really bad report, kind of spooked everyone. But then we got all these other, great company reports, and overall, I'd say they were really good, all things considered. And some of them, like Apple, we just saw was exceptional considering everything. I mean, the fact that these companies, the other thing we have to think about too, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier with this just being such a weird, unique time. For these companies to grow year over year, that means they have to grow more than they did last year, which the year-over-year growth from 2020 to 2021 obviously was insane. It was like 100%, 200%. So it was kind of an anomaly. And then the fact that now we're basing earnings off what they do last year, I feel like we got to go back and compare it to like 2019 maybe to kind of get a more accurate read. And I'm sure if you do that, a lot of these companies probably look a lot better than what they're reporting now. But, having said that, You'd think a company like Walmart would probably have a better outlook than, let's say, two of the ones I was reading was Mondelez and Kraft Heinz. And of all companies, you'd think, all right, these aren't kind of a priority probably, or to move the needle. And they just had their earnings and basically said, we're raising our outlook for the second half of the year. We're upping our forecast. So like if a company like that is, has a optimistic view, I feel like that kind of says something. There's a few specific companies that obviously get hit harder, and like Walmart, a lot of it was the transportation costs, and Amazon is struggling too with that. But it was just interesting for me to see that.
Oh yeah. Sorry, did I lose you? What happened? Hold on.
Oh, I still hear you. Hello?
There we go. Now we're good. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I look at my business also, and we're in construction retail, and it's one thing that I've been looking at, and we were booming for the first half of the year. Like I was up 55% year over year. And now all of a sudden we're starting to trail off. But now for us, we're very seasonal. So July, August, and September are our huge months. So I'm still doing relatively well, but I'm not even close to my July goals for the year. So I'm down slightly from last year. So again, I'm not too concerned about it, but I am looking back to like the 2019 numbers that I'm looking at, and we're starting to compare a little bit to those. Now we saw the same thing. We saw a massive boom in 2020 and 2021. A lot of that, especially for my store in my area, was because of the checks that everybody got. Everybody was at home getting a bunch of free money, and they're like, all right, so they did a lot of house upgrades, and that's starting to go away. But we are getting a lot of funding from the government for a lot of the projects that we have going on. So massive projects, these guys in construction were taking huge advantage of all of the 0% interest rates that were going on. So when you get 0% interest, these guys who are into real estate and everything, they're going to dump as much money into that as they possibly can, because the return on that investment is going to be so much higher since they're not paying the interest on the loans.
Yeah. And it was interesting to see, like, when you factor all that in, those rate hikes, obviously it makes stocks as a whole less attractive, but it really makes the overvalued tech stocks and stocks that are, more speculative or aren't profitable yet, that are promising results 5-10 years from now, it makes it that much less appealing. And I feel like that is a big reason why this feels like such a weird fake crash, because depending on what you owned, you're down anywhere between 10% and 100%. Like certain stocks have gone bust. Certain stocks, even like a Palantir from the high, is probably down 80%. And when you look at it like that, there's a reason why a lot of these, Coca-Cola, they're doing fine, obviously. And so the fact that the whole market didn't kind of come down as we would see in like a normal crash, or as we saw in 2020, I feel like it's all just making it a big weird mix of events.
Yeah, and I think right now, like we're on the upswing. I'm going to start paying attention to longer term charts. Like I saw a chart for Tesla 1 year, and the 1 year chart looks like we're bouncing down. But now it seems like that 620 was the bottom, and we're starting to climb back up again. So that to me is what it looks like. I'm still paying attention to us moving forward to make sure that continues. And as long as that continues in that trend, I think we're fine. And I think we can say that 620 was the bottom. And a lot of people have been saying all along is we'll know 6 months after the bottom hits that we had already hit the bottom. And that might end up being what we see, because, now 620 was back a couple of months ago. So, if we get to October, that's Q3 earnings. So if we haven't gone lower than 620 by the Q3 earnings, I think we're good to go. And 620, we can say, was the bottom.
Yeah. And Tesla's the perfect example, because, the key of looking long-term is so important, because, on a 2-year chart, it's up like a ridiculous amount. But yeah, if you look at the 1 year, you feel like you're losing, but you got to just remember, like, things arguably got overheated. When we got that Hertz deal, it was blown through the top a little. But I do think by the end of 2022, end of 2023, on the current path, if everything goes well, and there's no more lockdowns, or like people in Germany who don't want the factory built because it's bad for the environment,
because some frogs somewhere are going to be bothered.
Yeah. So as long as all that goes according to plan, we keep seeing progress toward FSD. We got to talk about that. The whole earnings call. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's a
We
lot
haven't even
there.
talked about that.
But yeah, if you look at it by the end of those years, I think it will be commanding that valuation and even higher. 1,500. I saw a Tesla bot tweeted me, said his price target for the end of 23, I think or the end of this year or 2023 was 1,900. And again, like if either year, honestly, if everything goes well and the macro improves, probably gets there.
Oh yeah. Let me see. I'm just going through some comments here. How's it going, everybody? Didn't say hi to everybody. Wow, it's been just hitting the ground rolling today. What an awesome day today was.
Yeah. What'd you think of the earnings call?
Earnings was good. Let me see. 12-month average jump. Yeah, the CPI going 12-month average. I gotta look back because I think I want to say it was September of last year. We started to get hit with that Omicron CPI. Was it Omicron or Delta? Oh, it was Delta. It was the Delta inflation that started popping in. So it'll be interesting to see it going year over year because if once we start getting into those high numbers that we started with last year, that's when we can really see it. And that's why I called September as it is, because I think September was the first CPI data that was really high. So going high again over that would be significant. So we should see something lower. Let me see here. Yeah, let's.
I'm with you, Dean. I would love, that's the other thing. I hope in the short term it stays low and goes back down because, it was getting to the sweet spot where I was like really going to dump a good amount of money in. But 600s would be nice. I wouldn't complain.
Oh yeah,
Get some more shares.
And talking about gaps. So yes, 865 gap is something that we trend on here and track regularly. Is all the gaps that are out there, and we filled the 865, and the question was, are we going to fill the 865 or the 742 first? We filled the 865. So now whether we're going to fill the 742 or not, don't know for sure. But Abhishek actually, who was on here also, he had said maybe we fill it after the split. And after the split, that would mean 247 for the gap, which after the split, maybe we do get that sell off down to 247 and fill it at that point. Totally possible. Can we see the 1 trillion market cap? I think at this point, what is it? 989? I think we need with the.
If you got some positive news on the Twitter case, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, if we are truly in a gamma squeeze right now for the entire market, totally possible. But today was the last day of the month. All I know is that this was probably, I think, the best month. This month and March were my 2 best months of the year, probably for everybody, same thing, because the market was very strong those 2 months. So last month I was down 4,000 in my portfolio, and this month I'm down 2,100. So I mean, I cut my deficit in half. So it was a significant month. Let's see. Yeah, 630 a share. I don't know if we're gonna get that low. Quite honestly, the way I would like to see it, I would love to see us come down, fill that 742 gap. I will load up on there, and then I want to see that trend coming up because we've been making higher lows all along the way for the last 3 months. So if we can continue that trend, but pull down to that 742, today I was slightly upset with myself, but I followed my plan. I had 2 sell orders in for my 2 lowest shares in my IRA for 1% losses. I had them at 850, but because we were doing so well early, I put them in 1% stops. I did get stopped out at both around the 850 mark anyway. And then, of course, it came back up. But I still have 4 shares in there. I'm not concerned, but I already have 2 buys in now down at 750, anticipating us filling that gap down low. So not financial advice, not guaranteed that's going to happen. However, that is my current plan in my IRA. Let's see here. Ken, so it's weird. So every single stock, even when we were really in dire straits back in June when Amazon split and when Google split, both of them did run into earnings about a week ahead of time. So if this trend continues with the macro environment and we get a good CPI number for August, I think we very well may see a nice run going into the split. So, I've heard talks about 900, which heck, we almost hit that today. So maybe we see $300 plus post split.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. I feel like part of it comes down to the macro, obviously. Because when you compare it to like you said, Google and Amazon, when they announced their splits, I remember I bought a little bit of Google like right after the announcement and it dropped 30% from there. So,
Thanks,
but hey, I did it. But then the Tesla, the Tesla one obviously is going to be different. because there's more interest, there's a lot more loyalty, and like I think people will be much more excited for the Tesla split. So I don't know, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Let me check one quick thing here.
It's the way this year is shaping up to be. It's like whatever you expect, just do the opposite.
Oh yeah, and here's another reason too why it may run stronger than the other two. So Amazon and Google, looking at their betas are relatively low. Google is 1.09 and Amazon is 1.27 versus Tesla, which is over 2, which means that usually Tesla is going to move twice as much as both of those. So if that is the case, then we could very well see a run that could push us over 1,000. We've been talking about it a lot. Are we going to hit 4 digits again before the split? Seeing as we cleared this massive macro hurdle this week with flare. My goodness, I was anticipating volatility, but I thought for sure we were going red. But if we continue this trend, we might very well see 4 digits again.
I'm with Jerry. It is still cheap at this price.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely still cheap at this price. I still maintain back to when I was talking about it, when Elon was selling his shares in December, anything under 1,000 is cheap right now. And every quarter we go by, that just goes up higher and higher. What can we expect Monday? I don't know. It's the beginning of a month. It's not in the middle of a quarter.
This week was too green.
Yeah, I mean, even Tesla,
right?
Even Tesla right now, the RSI is over 70. So if we are in a gamma squeeze, I just don't know how much longer it's going to last. But when it's done, it's going to crash hard. So anticipate maybe those 3 to 5% swings that I thought we would see this week could happen next week. Just monitor. So Monday could realistically go either way. The way I'm going to track it is by following crypto over the weekend, because if crypto starts crashing on Sunday and going into like the 6-7 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday and we're coming down hard, I have a feeling we're going to see a red start to Monday.
Yeah, that's a good indicator. And the other one is depends on when Business Insider drops their next FUD piece.
Oh, I know. And it's funny because, we're all now like asking for FUD. Come on, Tesla Q, bring it out. Drop some bombs on us. Come on.
Yeah, where have they gone?
Teslas are catching fire this week. Hurry up.
It's funny. I was reading a lot of issues, but not about Tesla, about how the Ford Bronco, did you hear, had to recall all of the Broncos, I think, for catastrophic engine failure.
Yes,
that's
I saw that.
The worst thing that could happen. Yeah.
And that's a sad thing. And, Ford, of all the legacy automotive makers, I made a video about it yesterday, and Ford is, of all of them, Ford's the one I actually want to succeed. Just because, the company's been doing well. They know their place. They're like, here's our niche. It's sort of like Subaru.
I would definitely bet on them over GM.
Oh yeah, absolutely. GM's just a big smoke and mirrors.
And I feel like, GM's the one that's really the most in trouble for going bankrupt, depending on how much market share Tesla ends up with, whether it's 20% or 80%. But I feel like Ford would make it either way. They'll probably have a smaller market. There's another interesting thing from the report, especially when you account for, there was an interview on Autoline today. It was really, really good. A lot of good stuff in there. Check it out after our live stream, of course. But I'll give you guys the spark notes on it. Like Ford, Ram, the other truck company, we know all of the legacy companies are losing market share to Tesla. And every year that's going by here, that GM ships 25 cars, Tesla ships 250,000. They're just falling further behind. But what was really striking to me was even Ford, Ram, truck companies, mind you, remember the Cybertruck hasn't even come out yet. Tesla doesn't have a truck, and they're still taking the market share away because it just keeps going down. So when you think about it that way, and the fact that, let's say 1 year, 2 years from now, maybe we have Cybertruck ramping and what that's going to do because the trucks have really been like the saving grace, that's the one thing, like obviously Ford, I think that'll always be a market, like a Ford truck, but it's going to be a niche market and it's a shrinking market, whereas the Tesla one's just exponentially expanding. It's like TikTok.
Oh yeah. Well, and that'll be fun. That'll be interesting to see too. The Ford F-150, obviously the best-selling truck, best-selling vehicle out there. So that's huge. So when Tesla comes out, obviously, the visual appearance of the Cybertruck is significantly different. And a lot of people aren't going to want it strictly because of the look. However, all of these guys out in the job, and these are guys I deal with every single day, they want functionality in their truck. So if Tesla can come out with a Cybertruck and have significantly better functionality than a Ford F-150, then we can see them really taking market share from Ford. And it might end up being Ford, and and if Rivian can keep on going the direction that they're going, sounds like they've got a good product and guys are liking it. So if they can keep moving in that direction, I think they will do well also. Um,
That's a really good point, because I think I would say for the Cybertruck, the functionality as far as like useful things, how the Ford can, the reverse power, you could power your house in a blackout.
yeah.
The Cybertruck is definitely going to have the most cool things that like you don't need, but that are awesome, right? But and I feel like with that, they'll capture the younger generation that are more interested in that end. But yeah, like for like construction people who are going to want to rely on this truck, if they can cater to both those demographics, which I think they will, because it's going to be an awesome truck. Like maybe it'll have Starlink. Who knows at this point? And if you do that, like you're taking all the markets.
Oh
That
yeah.
would actually be worst case scenario for Legacy.
Oh yeah, and the Starlink package is a big one that I've been asking for, and I've replied and I've mentioned it to Elon numerous times. The guy just doesn't want to respond to me. I don't know why. But
You'll get there.
But so, and knowing these guys on the job sites, because there's a lot of different, big job sites, there's multiple companies on a job site. So, some guys have their own company trucks, but if some dude, some subcontractor drives up with his Cybertruck and all of a sudden he's hooking up to Starlink and he's got all sorts of other functionalities that these guys don't have in their trucks, they're going to start asking him about it. And obviously it's a head turner, whether it's ugly to some people or not, it's going to turn heads. And then people are going to start asking questions about it. And even if only, 5% of people who ask questions about it start converting, that's still 5% conversion that goes over to the Cybertruck. And then they just keep on building that up and that spirals up even more.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. The fact that it's going to be a head turner and it's not even going to have a logo on it. The Cybertruck itself is the logo. It doesn't even
Yeah,
need it.
it's spot on. You're right.
People are going to see that thing. This is the genius, because the Cybertruck is going to be the best product yet. But even if it weren't and it was a joke, it's a great marketing thing,
Oh
because
yeah.
everyone is going to see that, and someone say, oh yeah, it's a Tesla. What are they going to do when they go home? Look up the company Tesla. And then if the Cybertruck's not their thing, Model Y will be, Model 3 will be, maybe Model S or X if they're bougie. But you think about it, and like that's the branding power that Tesla has, and the genius of their marketing that's free, at the end of the day. Like it's just crazy to think about.
Oh yeah.
And the
Yeah,
other
go
thing
ahead.
you had said, I just want to touch on real quick about the going back to the practicality of it and like being able to do the useful things. Even if Tesla doesn't do that, you're already seeing, I feel like you're going to have third parties who will give you a attached Starlink trailer or like whatever it is that you need, So like it may even be that Tesla doesn't even need to do that, but there's just so much like excitement and focus on Tesla, and like you'll have a third party seller who makes like the attachment that now makes it better than a Ford,
Oh yeah, the Cyberlander I'm already looking at. Like I want to get the
Yeah, that's
Cyberlander for
awesome.
it. And the other thing I thought about too when you were talking about it, these guys are on the job site. They come over and they start to ask questions. It turns heads, ask questions. Now guess what? Your cell phone is always listening to you because that's what the FBI does. And so they're going to hear Tesla, and all of a sudden guess what happens? You start going through your phone and ads start popping up on your phone for Teslas. Now Tesla's in your face all the time because you had a conversation with some dude on your job site about the Cybertruck. So it's just getting it out there. And so we talk about Tesla doesn't advertise, but because there's so much word of mouth and the way our whole entire society works with social media and our cell phones and our computers, it's its own advertising.
Yeah, and Twitter is a perfect example. That's really the only one like I'm on. And if you are on Twitter, even if you have no interest in Elon Musk or Tesla, I feel like you hear about it one way or another, and one of the two is always trending. You know what they say? Any press is good press. And,
Yeah.
people are finding out about Tesla. They're going to reach more people than the companies that advertise do with zero advertising budget.
Oh yeah, and we can even thank Tesla Q because the more they talk about it, the more people are talking about it.
Thank
And
you,
it's
Gordon Johnson.
oh yeah, exactly.
Every time he puts the most ridiculous Tesla's going to $1, it gets the front page there.
We can thank Gordon. He's our number one advertiser. Let's
He
see here.
probably below has a ton of Tesla stock.
Serious question. Higher gas prices usually drive EVs. Yep, absolutely. Since we passed the 5% adoption rate. No, demand is not going to go down. So here's two reasons why. One, we've already seen it. So back in 2008 and 2009, when gas prices were crossing $5 for the first time, I was driving a truck and I was paying over $600 a month in gas. So the first thing I thought of was, how can I get a cheaper vehicle for this? It took me a little bit of time to get to that point, but it never left my head that I needed to get a better solution. So even if gas prices come down, people now know in their heads that at any moment, gas prices can skyrocket back up within 6 months. People do not want to deal with that again. Now, also on top of it, with the EV tax credit, it's just going to, why at this point? We're already getting close to price parity when it comes to vehicles. So why at this point would anybody want to go with an ICE vehicle, knowing that they've got to pay for gas that could potentially go higher? And even with lower gas prices, when they were still at $2.50 a gallon, that was still a higher cost for vehicle usage over the course of the year than it was to have a Tesla. So we still have to come down almost $2 a gallon in my area just to get to the point where you're still paying more. And then you get the EV tax credit. I don't think that gas prices coming down at all are going to pull back demand.
Yeah, and I mean they're already they touched on it in that interview today, Autolane. If anything, it will just reduce the waiting line, right? There's not going to be a demand issue.
Yeah.
I don't think for any EVs, barring obviously their production constrained, not demand constrained. And even if, yeah, you get the recession, the fact that Tesla, you order a Tesla right now, you're not getting it till 2023.
Yeah.
They have the orders already to ride it out until, better times. And either way, yeah, there's no demand issue. I don't think for the next 2 years at least.
Oh yeah, and I mean, going back to the Bronco, also, it's like, sure, it's. I don't want to say it's nice to see legacy auto failing in that manner. I don't want to see anybody go through that, because right now it's about, can we get all of these automotive makers to come out with reliable EVs? They don't have to be as good as a Tesla, as long as they're a reliable EV for people to say, you know what, EVs are the way that we should be going. That's what's going to continue EV adoption going forward. We are moving in that direction. The faster we can get there, the better. But we still have the production constraints, and we're going to have a massive issue with the energy grid. So that, I know, is obviously something Tesla is working on, but the energy grid is going to be a problem in the future. I've already been hearing about brownouts in Wisconsin. California gets them all the time. So we need to clean up the grid. We're working on that. So it's one of those balances where I think the 2025 ranges, we're going to see, EV adoption hit that 40% mark, maybe higher, depending on how production goes. If all these EV makers can really produce quickly over the next 3 years, we'll pass that 40% mark in 2025. But by 2027, we really need to have an upgraded grid, because that means that more vehicles on the road are going to be EVs than ICE. And if we've got a dirty grid that's running brownouts, that's going to be a problem. Let's see here. What gaps? Yeah, we were talking about before, Jack. So the gaps, we hit the 865 fill. The only one below us right now that I know of, actually, I think we gapped up this morning. No, we filled that gap this morning. So I believe the only one we have right now is down to 742.50. So I think that's the only downward gap that we've got. And as we talked before, Abhishek said, maybe post split we fill it at 247. Don't know. We shall see what happens. But gaps do fill 9 out of 10 times. I've got buy orders in at 750 just in case we do. Let me see. All-time highs. No, all-time highs. I highly doubt that. All-time highs are 1242, I believe, is the all-time high right now. So no, there's that's not going to happen. I mean, I'm who knows? I don't know the future. So if we hit all-time highs before the split, by all means, that would be absolutely outstanding.
That would have to depend on AI Day revealing something utterly insane.
Well, but don't forget, AI Day 2 is September 30th now. It's not August, so that's not going to be pre-split. So
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is just the macro changing, and for that to happen, the Fed has to stop raising rates. And yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I think the only thing that could cause us to hit that is if Tesla at the annual shareholder meeting announced buybacks. If they announce buybacks at the meeting, it'll take off. I can see we would hit all-time high. But I don't think. I mean, a lot of times that's what companies do. They do a split and a buyback at the same time. So maybe that's the card they got in their back pocket right now. I don't know. That I think would be the catalyst that would put us up there.
I was gonna say I don't think Tesla
Larry, thank
would
you for the
start doing
super chat.
buybacks
Appreciate that.
quite yet.
You guys are awesome, by the way. Yes, and that's for my lucky number. Oh, speaking of lucky numbers, is anybody in the States here in an area that they play Mega Millions, the lottery? I'm not a gambler. I'm not usually a lottery guy, but when the Mega Millions jackpot's over $1 billion, I took a shot. So I bought 5 tickets tonight. So we'll see if I'm a winner. And if I do win the jackpot, I just want to let everybody know you're all invited to my castle. And I'm going to pay for it all. I'll pay for all-inclusive trip to my castle.
You can make a Kimball Musk investment after you win.
Yes. Yeah, that was actually awesome, timing. And, we talk about, the options, this and that, but the fact that he had exercised options at the time he did for 25,000 shares and did not sell anything to cover taxes, that was huge bullish news. And then, of course, he tweeted about all that stuff over on Twitter about how, seeing where their future is going for Tesla. Talk about bullish. Like if you wanted a bullish signal, like should I buy now? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, if it would have been the one thing, like I still think it's bullish, but it was a call option and he exercised it at a strike price of $75 a share. So that must be nice to be able to do that.
No kidding.
So it's a good sign, but if he had bought it at the top would have been, or like bought it for current prices would be even more bullish, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, like that's 10%. Like we're all hoping it goes down to 742, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll buy it at 75. I'm good."
Gotta get on the boards of these companies. That's the way to do it.
Yes, Happy. I would absolutely buy everybody a Tesla. Every one of my subscribers, and I'm almost at 5,000. Thank you guys so much for all that support. I should be hitting 5,000 within the next week, which is fantastic. Yes. So if I do it, every one of my current subscribers will certainly get a Tesla from me. And yes, this is recorded, so you can hold me to it.
Gotta like the video, though.
I'll be buying Teslas like Hertz.
Only the people that like the video, right? Smash the like.
Yes. Let me see. Yeah, you know what? That's actually a good point too. If all of a sudden the Ukraine war, if that ends in August before the split, that's another catalyst that could absolutely drive us to all-time highs. That's right, Kai Rob. Hey man, I don't even know, where do you live? I mean, I don't want to assume by your name where you live, but that's thank you for everything you do. By the way, if anybody who's on this live chat who does not know him, he is a Tesla bot over on Twitter. He is my go-to for production and delivery numbers. So there's Troy Tesla-like and a Tesla bot. Both of those guys are outstanding. So if you don't follow him, definitely check him out. Yes, Mela Tesla. I was pricing out on my way here just for fun. If I got a fully loaded Model S Plaid, it would be like $2,300 a month for a loan. I was like, that's a mortgage. My goodness.
Hey, that's about the average right now for cars. It's getting up to like 1,000. It's crazy.
God, I know, and that's what a lot of people are saying is, we want cheaper vehicles. Now, the average price of vehicles right now is I think it's like $46,000 or $47,000 for the average price. That is ridiculously high. Now, of course, when you're looking at, lower end vehicles, the lower end vehicles are ICE vehicles. There are not many low end EVs right now. And heck, even when you're looking at the EV tax credit that's coming out potentially, used vehicles under $25,000, you can't get a used Tesla for under 25 grand. That's just not going to happen. Like you'd have to get one with hundreds of thousands of miles on it and it looked like it got run over by a monster truck. And then maybe you can get it for under 25 grand.
You know what else is interesting with Tesla is it has the highest owner loyalty rate, 76% of people. And then the runner-ups are not really close. I mean, second would be Subaru. They get around 60%, Toyota 61%, but Ford drops down to 53%, and GMC, Chevrolet is 49%, and they just kind of keep dropping from there. And not only is it that, but the other statistic was 95% of people who buy a Tesla and then want to get another EV buy another Tesla. 95% of those people. Oh, yeah.
And if nobody watched that video, there's a great video. I'll put the link to that in the description after we're done with the live stream. There was a quick 10-minute segment that Sawyer Merritt had put over on Twitter. But these guys talk about, brand loyalty. and it's outstanding how much Tesla is. I think they said 76% of Tesla owners will get either a second Tesla or go back and buy another Tesla after their first one. And it's bonkers. And they're like, nobody else ever had that number. Like it just doesn't exist. And knowing when I was married, we had my ex in-laws were very good friends with an owner of a Chevy dealership. So we'd always go down there because we would get it basically right above dealer cost. So we were getting great pricing on things. But after the divorce, my ex-wife, they're still friends with them, but they stopped buying from them because, even the brand loyalty for somebody that you're loyal to, the owner of the dealership, you're not going there because the vehicle was not worth the price they were paying, and they can get a better deal elsewhere. I see. Yeah, to take a Cybertruck. That's actually something. So what do you guys think when it comes to the Cybertruck? Obviously, we don't know. We knew originally they had the single and the tri-motor, single, dual, and tri-motors. Now we don't know. Now we know that they're not going to do a single motor. As far as we know, they're going to do a dual motor, a quad motor, and a plaid version. I don't know if they're going to even bother with a tri-motor anymore. So I'm really interested to see what trims they end up doing and what the pricing is going to be. I would imagine since the plaid Model S is 127 grand, I'm going to say that the plaid Cybertruck is probably going to be closer to 150 now that I'm seeing the prices and where they're at. So I think Elon's intention is to get the Cybertruck, at least the dual motor, down to that $60,000 to $80,000 mark at the highest. I would think 60 is probably his goal. But it'll be interesting. I'm hoping that by the end of maybe Q3, we maybe get some info on that. But yeah, I definitely want to see what's coming out with the Cybertruck because I want that Starlink package. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, and that's it, and a lot of people go for that, especially now because you can't even get used cars. Some people just do that. Some people have a strict rule that they're like, I'm not going to buy myself a car unless it's under $5,000, and I know it's going to last me 3 years because that's a great investment. If you can spend $5,000 and it lasts you 3 years, that's awesome. And then you move on to another one. It's almost like leasing, but you're owning instead. Let me see. Yeah, that's going to be a big one too. I don't think we're going to get that before the split, but if we do end up getting the investment grade upgrade before the split, that could be another catalyst. I don't know if that would be enough to bump us to all-time highs, but it could. But yeah, that one's a big one. I personally think we're going to end up getting that as a birthday present to myself in November. And so I think that's what the S&P is going to finally do, because you got to remember, like, while Q2 was greater than expectations, those of us who knew what was going on understood that how good the numbers were. But, the S&P could always say, hey, you only had $600 million in free cash flow. That's not enough to make us feel comfortable to go with the investment grade upgrade for you. So we're going to wait. And then I think we're going to end up seeing $6 billion in free cash flow. So that's a 10x in free cash flow in Q3. And if we get that, then yeah, I can guarantee we're going to see that.
And it's interesting that Elon came out and said, when he was asked what he thinks of inflation or when the price of cars will start coming down, and he sees inflation getting better, starting around the end of the year. And it was interesting, though, that a lot of the commodities, obviously we've seen oil has come down at least a little bit from its peak, but a lot of the commodities for EVs and the batteries, interestingly enough, are starting to come down. So that's a good sign. And, his assessment, it's interesting. I mean, he's a guy who made that big stock sale, him and who was it, Bezos and the Microsoft CEO before this crash. And he might know a thing or two.
Let me see. So based on his forecast, he is looking at Shanghai by themselves producing 20,000 more vehicles than the entirety of Q4 than all of Q2, just out of Shanghai. So that's, yeah. I mean, when you're looking, and again, going back to production, that's really what it's coming down to, is production. If however many vehicles Tesla can produce, they're going to sell. And whoever is going to produce the most is going to win. And right now, even if legacy auto can ramp as fast as Tesla is, it doesn't matter because they're still in the early stages. So they're going to ramp. Even if their new factories ramp as fast as Shanghai did to start, they're still 2 years behind. So, there's no way, and that would be assuming that Tesla stops production altogether in the next 3 years. Let me see. Rivian. So I haven't jumped into Rivian enough to know enough about them. I've heard very good things. I like the look of the truck. I hear a lot of good things about the truck. I heard, from Sawyer Merritt in New Hampshire, there's a lot of them running around up there. So I think it's going to be a solid player, but I think Rivian's going to end up being almost like the Ford F-150 of the EV market. Who knows what the Cybertruck is going to do? Maybe that ends up coming in and blows it out of the water. But as far, we'll see. I think Rivian, Ford F-150, and the Cybertruck will probably be the top 3 trucks in the market.
I think Rivian, the problem is just that the odds are against them, right? There's 2 companies in the history that have not gone bankrupt, American, Ford and Tesla. And Rivian is great if they were where they were today 10 years ago. This is the way just my personal view on it. But they're a little late to the party. They have a lot less ammunition than Legacy. And their technology is not vastly superior. If it was vastly superior, it would be an asset and kind of a moat for them. But the way I look at it is, they're not doing anything new. So there's a limited market for, like, if you're kind of just copying what already is. But the exception is where if you make something 10 times better than what there already is, which is what we saw Tesla do. But you see, with the best team in the world, with Elon Musk at the helm, they barely made it. The odds are just not looking in your favor. And that's kind of how I've looked at Rivian, and especially at the valuation it was at. If it really came down a lot, maybe I would take a closer look at it, but that's just my views on it.
Yeah, and it's something I talked about previously, which is Tesla took 10 years to get themselves to the ramp that they're at now. So even if Legacy Auto and all these startups learned from Tesla and can cut that time down to 1/3 of the time that it took Tesla to get there, it's still, with them starting last year, it's still going to take them till 2025 to get to the point where Tesla is last year. And so, they're still going to be 4 years behind Tesla if they can go at that fast pace. I can't even see it. So, in the best case scenario, and now when it comes to Rivian and all the other startups as well, it's very much like a bull market. The EV market right now is a bull market. You really can't lose unless you completely fumble like a Nikola, or you come out with, stuff that doesn't function properly, then you're going to lose. Otherwise, as long as you come out with any product that is functional and that people can actually buy, you're going to succeed, at least in the near term. What your product can actually do will determine how long you last. But in the near term, that's what's going to, you're going to win, just because the EV market is a bull market.
What would you say, because this I could tie right in, like for let's say 2023 and 2024, how many cars could you see Tesla selling, by the end of those years?
End of 20. Oh, hold on. I've got my valuation model. Let me pop that right up.
Because I feel like this kind of gives you even more of an idea. You got to think, so the global fleet of cars, let's say, is 200 million, whatever percentage of that, maybe it's 70 new million, I think, are sold globally every year.
Yeah, last year was 67 million. So I'm projecting about 80 by 2025.
Okay. So, and if you think about that, let's say Tesla already has a good chunk of the EV market with the cars they've been selling for the last 10 years that probably are going to last at least 10 years, if not 20. And then every year they start building, pumping out more cars. So much of the market that traditionally would have been up for grabs, either because the car was getting old and it was time for a new one, or for reason number 2, Tesla didn't exist and didn't steal that market share already. That's also going to eat into the market. And it's just an advantage for Tesla. So if they could really ramp production, and let's say, if we do get this 50% CAGR, next year we'd be looking at 3 million, 2.5 million, and maybe by the next year, 3 or 4 million. They'll already have sold, let's say between 10 and 15 million cars total. Those cars are going to be on the road for a long time. And then when you additionally tie into that, the strong brand loyalty we just talked about, what are those people going to do in 20 years when they do need a new car? They're going to buy a Tesla because 95% of the people are sticking with it. And so the market for everyone else just continues to dwindle down more and more, especially over longer periods of time.
Yeah, and when people are saying, they're going to take market share from Tesla, again, we go back to it is not EV market share, it's the automotive market. So as we're going into the automotive market converting to EVs, Tesla is going to be dominating in that market. And in order for anybody else to steal Tesla's customers, they have to take the strongest brand loyal customer away from Tesla. So they need to come out with something that is going to be that compelling that they want to take that away from them. And nobody has that right now.
Because it's got to be 5 times better. It can't even just be a little bit better than Tesla, because that's what we've seen happen. This played out with the iPhone. The iPhone, the Apple just built that compelling, branding, marketing. It was advanced, it was sleek, to the point where even when competition was better, you could get a phone that's much better, for a lot less money. But every year, Apple continues to dominate the market, because unless you're 10 times better, people are going to stick what they know, especially if the branding is that strong. And that's the scenario I see with Tesla. It's like they're not just going to stop running. So even if the competition, by some miracle act of God, becomes better than Tesla, they're going to have to be not just 2 times better, like magnitudes better, for people to justify switching over.
Oh yeah, and I mean, there's always going to be some people who are like, you know what? I don't want to buy a Tesla because they're Tesla. Some people just don't like the popular kid. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's normal. But when you're looking at the bell curve, Tesla is going to be at the top of that bell curve, and there's just going to be some people at the bottom. Let me see here. Added auto robotics, robotaxi, energy sterling for myself. End of decade. My end of decade. Let me see here. I'm at it, and actually, I got to do an updated one for you guys soon too. My price target for 2030 is currently $11,009 for 2030. And for me, and the way I do mine, and for anybody who hasn't followed me on here, so my valuation model, because we realistically, I mean, what do you put in for a dollar amount for robotics? Who knows? AI, you don't know. Robotaxis, you can kind of figure out based on Uber, Lyft, and actual taxis that are out there. So you can work all of that in there. But for me, because I don't know those actual numbers, that's where I fluctuate with my PE ratio, because PE is just, what kind of growth, what percentage of growth do you think the company is going to see in the future? So I play with my PE and that adjusts for it. So once we do get FSD becomes reality, then I can plug those numbers in there and then tweak my PE down to accommodate for the numbers that we actually truly have. But my numbers still fall in line with pretty much everybody else's numbers out there, just because it's so hard to, when you're going into a disruptive place, how do you value it? It's like back in the 90s. How do you put a dollar value on the internet? You can't. So how can you value a market that doesn't even exist yet? So that's why I just play with the PE ratio. So, and that's also the same reason why you guys see price targets that go from Gordon Johnson to $2,500, because it really comes down to PE. Because even when you listen to the bear analysts, even they are saying Tesla's an awesome company. They had great earnings, but the reason the price target is so low is because they don't see the future. They don't see the same potential in the future that somebody with a higher price target does. That's really all the difference is. Let me see what else we got here. Yeah, Alan, that is spot on. And that, going back to what Vinny was saying before, people don't want, that traditional stuff. So, if you're going to try to take a customer away from Tesla, you can't just take a Chevy Blazer and put a battery in it. You can't do that. That is not going to take anybody away. That is going to take the person who is comfortable with a Blazer and the consumer who refuses to change because they've always owned a Blazer. And now you're going to get them to reluctantly convert to an EV Blazer. Oh God, that's so challenging. Those are the people who are going to stick with it because that's all they're going to do. And trying to get them just to convert to an EV version of what they already know, those are the people who are going to stick with that. Otherwise, people are going to be like, dude, I was like, why would I want that vehicle when I can go and get a Tesla that is a computer on wheels? It's not just a battery powered Blazer.
That's the perfect way to put it, because that's exactly right. It's this technology has just leapfrogged so quickly that 5 years ago, it was all about the electric vehicle. But now the next 5 years, that's over. It's about it's a computer on wheels. And what's Tesla already working on? Obviously, full self-driving, but beyond that, just having this awesome in-house infotainment, having games and stuff you can play. They're doing all they're going to lead that, because everyone else is just worrying about putting a battery on wheels. Tesla every day is rolling out these new awesome features. And then, when you tie into it back to Rivian, what sets them apart? They're doing what, if they were where they are now 5 years ago, okay, but they have to make a compelling computer on wheels to really make this work. At least is my vision on it, that these are turning into computers on wheels. It's not just a car anymore. And I think that's also a big part of Apple. I know a lot of people think there's some rumored to be a big reveal in Q3, but that's probably why Apple is so focused on the Apple Car. And whether I don't know, but I would say it's not going to be a physical, but it's something more software related. And obviously they have Apple CarPlay. They're moving in that direction where even without a car, Apple may be able to license out that software to be, the computer on wheels that runs the car. So maybe that's how some of these legacy companies survive, because it doesn't seem like they can do that themselves. And maybe that's their Hail Mary, is that Apple, will license them the technology, and they do just build wheels and a battery.
Oh yeah, and actually, I almost wonder if it's going to be reversed, like how, Apple has their whole entire ecosystem, and then you've got Droid, which has, all sorts of different players that are involved in it. Maybe it's going to reverse course, and Tesla will be the FSD like Apple with the ecosystem, and then Apple will be that player that all of the legacy automotive makers are going to use their software in it. Who knows what's going to happen? But again, going back to what you were saying before, with the size of the EV fleet that Tesla is going to have on the road, for people who are going to have them for a long time, they all have the ability to get upgraded software. My friend who's got his, and I know those of you guys out there who own a Tesla already know that, like, your range can all of a sudden get better because they tweak the software a little bit. Like, that doesn't happen in a legacy vehicle. Your gas mileage is probably going to get worse and worse over the years. And so when all of a sudden you can make it better, and now you think about Teslas out there, let's say somebody else puts out a vehicle that's comparable to Tesla, and Tesla's like, all right, well, we'll add this cool software feature. Bam, we're better than you are again. And not only just our new vehicles coming out, our entire fleet is now better than you are again because we made a software upgrade.
Right, and that's every time Tesla has a recall and it makes the front page, it's an over-the-air software update. Oh God, it is not being physically recalled. Who else is doing that? Not the Ford Bronco, I could tell you that.
Oh, I know. Let me see here. Yeah, and this is something I was talking about. And obviously we know that Tesla does not need this EV tax credit. Elon has said it. He'd actually prefer it not happen because we already spend way too much as a country as it is. Let's get inflation down. Let's knock our debt down. This is ridiculous how much money we spend. But unfortunately, this is going to end up coming for Tesla. So I made that video yesterday, discussing the positives about it. And realistically, if Tesla is going to have more vehicles produced than anyone else, they're going to end up reaping more benefits than anyone else from this as well. And so looking at pricing, I have a feeling Elon's going to, with it, the little hint that he dropped over on Twitter about, inflation's coming down. And if inflation comes down, we could drop prices. He might drop the price of the Model 3 because the Model 3, I can't remember which one. I don't know if it's the performance that does not qualify. Or no, it's the model, whichever the Model 3 does not qualify for the under 55,000. He might drop that price just enough to pull it under. And then I think they might end up swinging something with the FSD and autopilot package where it will be considered like an after purchase feature that you can lump into it. Because by doing so, and I know that they're eventually going to end up going over to a monthly subscription anyway and not be able to pay for it up front. But I think if they do that, they'll have more cars that'll qualify for the EV tax credit also.
It's funny. I feel like I'm reading a lot of mixed things about this EV tax credit and which Tesla vehicles it will or will not actually end up helping. But I just think that it is just the latest idiocy to subsidize an industry that already the supply cannot meet the demand. The production cannot meet the demand. It feels a little bit too forced for me, either Orwellian or maybe a bailout for Legacy to help them out, as always. That's probably the real reason, and they're just hiding it a little better and trying not to actually just be like, hey, we're going to help you and hope Tesla fails. But just the fact that they're doing this now is ridiculous to me. If anything, if a year from now the demand actually did start to dry up because it's, pricing people out, if they did it then, I probably wouldn't, like, I would be like, okay, that makes sense. But it blows my mind that this is even a thing right now when the demand is sky high. People are waiting a
Well,
year.
oh, I know. I mean, putting my tinfoil hat on that isn't even needed because it's so blatantly obvious now. But all of a sudden, GM announces that the government is supplying $2.5 billion to them for a battery factory here in the US. Oh, and then the EV tax credit comes out, which guess what gets added in? You've got to have batteries that are made in the US. Oh, how
Government
convenient.
motors.
Like seriously, like I mean, and I've talked to many of you guys, about this, and it really is. It's like this is just a disguised bailout because they know full well if they tried to say that they're going to bail out GM and any legacy automotive maker, we as a society would bum rush the Capitol again. But
Don't you
I didn't
don't you
say that.
love
We did not say that. But seriously, that's exactly the reaction that they would get because they know it's just a bunch of hooey, and it's that's something they shouldn't be doing, and that's it drives me crazy that it's even allowed and they're trying to circumvent it by doing these battery factories and this EV tax credit. Yeah, but
gotta
again, I
love
talked about
legalized gotta
yeah.
love legalized bribery and corruption.
Oh, I know, and I talked about it before too. It's like even with the EV tax credit, legacy auto still needs to be able to produce, and if they don't produce, they're not going to be
They're
able to
just
take
kicking
advantage
the
of.
can down the road.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to take advantage of the EV tax credit. So if Tesla can just keep on pumping out these vehicles, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're done.
The battery factory will help, but you know what it's going to do? Best case, they survive. Worst case, they still are not going to be around in 10 years.
Oh, I know. And then I like how, they said they switched it from, I think it was US made to North American because, hey, guess what? GM just decided that they're going to start pumping out that Blazer from Mexico. So GM can still take advantage of that EV tax credit from there. Let's see what else we got here. Yes, and the semi truck, that's another huge one that's a piece of this. I think that to me
That gets a
is big.
$40,000 credit. That is the huge one.
Yeah, that one is bigger because, the regular consumer vehicles right now, or obviously we're already demand is cranked out there. It doesn't matter. But when it comes to the semi truck, that market really hasn't started yet. So when we get there, what do you have for competition there? Lion Electric, who has been having problems, Nikola, who doesn't even exist really. I mean, that's really it. You don't have much else out there. So for Tesla to be able to do this and take advantage of that, that's going to be a huge.
Yeah, and that really is the biggest piece, at least with the automotive puzzle, that's responsible for the majority of the pollution that got us this place is the truck. So that is going to be the major market, and no one else. I mean, no legacy people. At least you got a couple companies like you just mentioned, if we can call them that, at least in the case of Nikola. But Tesla's going to be unchallenged with that. And you know what? If this credit goes through, oh, now we can make the Tesla Semi with a $40,000 tax credit. Oh, I bet they're going to push the production up if we have the batteries and materials that we need by then. And then who's going to compete with them on that?
Yeah, and one of the big things too that I saw when it comes to the batteries and the components needed to here in the U.S. was it came down to recycling too, and knowing that JB Strobel has Redwood Materials, who is the first one who is going to be over there recycling batteries at mass scale. That's going to be a huge advantage for Tesla in the future also, because as soon as they're up and running, they're going to start taking advantage of that. Let me see. Yeah, 2025 for me is the big year. So these next 3 years, it's about gathering information, making sure Tesla's still moving in the right direction, accumulating as many shares as I can, because I think 2025 is that pivotal year for everyone. We're going to know at that point who is going to survive the rest of the decade, who is not, who is going to lead the way, how is robotaxi going to do, where are we at with AI and Optimus, how's energy rolling, how is the grid getting upgraded. 2025 is that huge year, and
we had mentioned that. I know we got it in the videos maybe like 10 or 20 episodes ago. What episode are we even on by now?
Oh my God, I think we're on 20 now. This might be 20.
So we said that 2025 is that pivotal year. It's either going to be the apocalypse for legacy auto, it's going to be the defining year for Tesla, or it'll be both. Because on the current pace of things, if things keep going well with Tesla and going how they have been with government motors, 2025, it's going to be, you know, very clear, I
I think
believe.
that's the year that Daimler and GM merge, because that's the only way they're going to survive.
Yeah, that could be. A lot of these companies might swallow each other up, and it'll shrink, kind of like the tech. You know what? Not for nothing, kind of like the last true, you know, big innovation was obviously in the tech space, more so like software and, you know, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft. I mean, they have a lot of hardware too. Amazon. That was the last industry that consolidated from. You had the .com. You know, most of these tech companies got wiped out, or a good amount of them did. And maybe that's what we're going to see happen now with this auto industry. Of the 10, 20 major brands and companies, there's going to be a lot of consolidation, or I either that, or like many of those brands are going to shrink into such a small niche, kind of like BlackBerry after the iPhone, and now they officially scrapped the phones. But
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right on that. And I think we just saw that happen with crypto. And I know we discussed it before, where crypto literally just went through that over the last 3 months, where we saw the crypto bubble pop and a lot of these companies just were gone and they're done because they, you know, everything was in crypto and it crashed so hard they couldn't make it through. Let me see. Happy. Yes. So personally, I think the dual motor is ideally going to start at 60,000. I think the base level will end up being 60,000 for that.
I think
Quad motor is probably going to be like 90 or 100, and then plat will be 130,
the
140.
base, at least like before all of these, you know, increases way back when, they said it was going to start under 40,000.
Yeah.
But I think that was to meet the, you know, the government, what they wanted to get some benefits. But now with this new EV tax credit, I'd have to look into it some more, but maybe it will benefit if the Cybertruck is more expensive, and then that helps Tesla out.
Yeah, and I mean, don't forget that Tesla has gone up on its prices 30% on some vehicles over the last 2 years, and the Cybertruck pricing came out
Right. That's
four
true.
years ago. So you know, with Cybertruck pricing coming out that long ago, you know, you've got to increase that price by at least
Yeah.
50%, and so at that point, you're already looking at
60. Yeah.
$60,000. So let me see what else we got here. Yep, absolutely. Anybody who's saying that it's overpriced, you know, look back at history. Look at Apple, you know, and we say it all the time on here is fortunes are born during bear markets. We just hit a bear market. I think we've officially just pulled out of it in the S&P. So when you're looking at, you know, a bear market that we were just in investing, if you were investing in Apple or Amazon during the housing market recession, you made out like a bandit afterwards. That's right now where we are at. So if you have been buying Tesla all along this year, you are going to make out like a bandit in the next 5 years. Hey, welcome back, buddy. Let me see. What else we got on here from you guys?
See, I don't know about this. We have to remember Tesla can only get so big. AT&T was broken up in 1984 because of Elon's other holdings. Tesla will probably be broken up at a quicker pace. I don't know about that, because to do that, you would have to admit Tesla won. They did it. You know, they're a monopoly. They're number one. I don't think they're going to get there. What I see happening more so with Tesla is just like we talked about Amazon 5 years ago. Tesla is an octopus that is just starting, and it's going to put its tentacles into all these different things like what we saw with Amazon. And at least with the way things are right now, you know, Amazon obviously started shipping books. Then they started shipping you everything. You could get a sledgehammer and an eagle's beak in, you know, one day. Like, it's crazy. But they don't control everything. So they're not technically a monopoly, because they compete with Walmart, Target, you know, all these other stores. But, you know, so let's say Tesla gets 20% of the auto market. Let's say they get 20% of the energy storage and solar market. Then we've got robotics. Like, they're doing so many different things. And until they get to the point where they really do dominate, like an AT&T, I don't know that they will get broken up.
Yeah, and I mean, and you think about like Disney. Look at how much Disney owns. It's bonkers how much they own. And you know, I think that might have been part of the reason why Elon didn't want to do a parent company with, you know, X Holdings and put everything together, because if they do dominate like they said, they would end up making them break up, despite the facts that they are related, but they aren't related. And we know full well that all of Elon's, you know, biz companies are focused on putting civilization on Mars. You know, everyone has their own little piece of that. And, you know, as Vin said, when you get to AI, like if they make him break out AI into Tesla AI, I mean, then at that point, maybe Elon will be like, fine, now I'll do X holdings and they'll all be under the same umbrella. Sorry. You know, so I
Yeah,
don't think
that
that's going to end up happening.
I always figured, the X thing wouldn't happen because it's just unnecessary concentration of risk. Because you could have SpaceX is probably going to end up being, the most expensive of them all, bankrupt the whole thing. It wouldn't make sense. And another great reason not to do it would be, yeah, exactly that. They're dominating everything. At least this
Yeah.
way, they could keep spinning it out. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day becomes a parent company. That'll be interesting to see.
Oh, I
At
know.
some point, I mean, if you're helping humanity, it's kind of hard to argue the breakup versus, an AT&T that's just going to be a traditional monopoly and be greedy.
Yeah. And going back to, the EV market itself, we look at the automotive market and Tesla and Elon's like, hey, we want 20% of the market. So if they're going to have 20% of the market, that's definitely not a monopoly. But if Tesla did get to the point where had like 85 to 90% of the automotive market in 2030 and they were going to split it up, do you guys want to be shareholders at that point? Because I know I certainly would. If Tesla owns 85 to 90% of the automotive market, sweet mother. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Tesla, and as Elon has said, Tesla is more a software company than anything, and that's really what it's going to come down to. Is they're going to have the best software, and I have no doubt that Apple and Android will have their own softwares. People are going to be running NVIDIA chips, and NVIDIA is working on AI and FSD also that I know of. So there's going to be competition in that field, which is totally fine. So it's just a matter of who's going to be able to come out with it first, and then have the best product. And from what we know, Tesla has the best product as of right now.
And again, more and more with that one, it's exactly right. It's all about the technology, and the car is going to transform into a living room on wheels, where you sit there and it's entertainment because it's going to be driving. And this is where maybe you do see that scenario like we talked about earlier, where Tesla gets a huge chunk of the market, and then Apple will be the in-car software. That's the Apple car for all the other companies that will essentially be the shell of the car, shells of their former selves. But yeah, and that would be, make sense for why they're keeping Apple and Android out too and doing everything in-house.
Yeah, and I wonder with the Apple car. I mean, obviously we've seen this can get kicked down the road forever. Like if people are like complaining about Tesla and FSD, look at the Apple car. But that really is the question. And I've got a buddy who works for Apple. He knows some things. He obviously can't let me know too much because it's top secret. But Apple, I know he has told me that they're working on a system inside the car. So I know at least on the software end of things, Apple is working on that. But I don't know if they're actually going to do a physical vehicle themselves, or if Apple Car is going to be like, all right, whoever wants to produce us a shell of a vehicle with batteries and actually produce the hardware for it, and we'll put the software in it. Maybe that's what's going to end up happening. Don't know. I mean, they don't have the Steve Jobs anymore, so who knows if Tim Cook has that kind of ingenuity.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been innovating like they were, and they haven't had to because they just dominate either way. And I think as long as Tim Cook is the guy, the CEO, you're going to see them continue to do very well. But the growth has peaked until you do get the next crazy iteration like the Apple car, or someone who's going to be the visionary like Steve Jobs was. Apple can just hang out where it is, grow, 10, 20% a year. But for them to really take it to the next level, they're going to need to launch a new product, and it can't just be Hollywood in your pocket, putting an extra camera on the phone.
Oh yeah, and actually, one thing that just came into my head. I don't know why, but I think what would be awesome if what could really like set Apple apart, or if Tesla does this, this would be even better. We have FSD. We're now at level 5 autonomy. You've got your car driving you to work every single day. Or maybe you're taking a robo taxi and you're tired of the commute. You're driving through the city. You don't care what it looks like. And all of a sudden, they've got on their windows on the inside turns into a computer screen. And now you can change your surroundings to be able to see whatever, you want to see on the outside. I think that'd be pretty wild that they could potentially do in the robo taxis as far as software goes. So maybe that's a route that they're going to go, almost like metaverse style thing. But hey, I want to feel like I'm riding a roller coaster today on my way to work. Awesome. Let's do that.
They already got the sound effects part down.
Oh yeah, so they could totally do all of that. So I can see stuff like that end up coming in the future, whether it's from a Tesla and Apple or a third party. I can see that, and then I want to order my car with a special screen windows where I can see what's going on.
When your kids are saying, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" Roller coaster mode.
Yeah, it's sunny out. Nope, it's dark out now. Yep, it's nighttime. Time for bed. Let's see what else we got over here.
I agree with Kairov. It's hard to go further out than 2025. It's just there's
Yeah.
too many unknown unknowns. And like we're lucky with the company moving this fast to do a year out. But yeah, anything beyond 2025, you can't even put a value on these things, whether they happen and whether they, what it does to valuation is like, I don't think anyone can truly get close, without a high degree of luck. There's no way to chart that out.
Oh yeah, and that's why for me, my strict numbers that I actually track go to 2025. After that, I'll do it for 3 years out. After that, yeah, exactly. It's more of a just percentage growth over the previous year because unless like Kathy Wood I know goes out, they went up to 2026. So they do 4 years out, but I don't have a Monte Carlo setup that I can run the whole thing on. Let's see.
Yeah, BYD making EV buses, but BYD doesn't have the margins Tesla does. And I think this is something else that's just so underappreciated. I don't know if, the majority of people just don't, realize how pivotal those high earnings are. Having software company-esque multiples, Tesla, if they can keep this automotive gross margin, even just at 30%, and it's going to get higher, but even 30%. So I wish I had Meet Kevin's little board that I could write on the thing here. High margins with a little arrow going to pumping all that profit into having the best software, which is going to be even more important, So
Yeah.
that's how I see them staying ahead.
Yeah, and when it comes to EV buses, and we're looking at a lot of cruises out there doing robo taxis already, and people are like, well, robo taxis already exist. They do, and I think that's actually a great thing for Tesla because yes, they've got robo taxis, but they are geofenced to those specific cities. They're not free roaming. Now, what's going to end up happening is when people go to these cities, they're going to start to get more comfortable because think about it yourself. Would you feel comfortable getting into a vehicle that had no driver and it was driving you around? A lot of people are going to be very hesitant about that. So by getting these robo taxis that even geo-fenced into these cities, having people get in them, getting people get comfortable with them, then they can share that experience with their friends. Hey, I got in this robo taxi that drove me here. There was no driver. It was awesome. All right, cool. I want to try one. Then that word of mouth is going to start to spread, and then people are going to be like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And then somebody with a Tesla can be like, "I have that, and it goes everywhere. We can drive across country without having to touch the steering wheel." Oh, okay, I've been in one of those before. I feel comfortable with it. And it's really going to be the gateway into true FSD for Tesla. Yeah, that's a good point, Lou, because at this point right now, the people who are trying to switch over to EVs because they're tired of gas prices, they want a new vehicle, and their new vehicle, like I'm one of those people who is like, my next vehicle is going to be an EV. I should be taking delivery on my Tesla probably beginning of next year. So that's just going to happen. And some people are going to be like, I just want it, but I need a car right now and I can't get a Tesla and I don't want to wait 6 months. So they're going to take whatever they can possibly get, but they want a Tesla. And EVs, at least for the next 5 years, I think across the board are going to have a good resale value on them because people are going to want them and production isn't going to be able to catch up to demand. So a used EV is going to be fine. So somebody can go out and say, hey, I've got an order in for a Tesla. It's going to take a year for me to get it, but I need a car now. So I'll buy this vehicle now, and then I'll just kick the can down the road on my Tesla delivery a little bit, and then I'll trade in my EV or I'll sell that and I'll get the Tesla instead. So I think you're absolutely right on that. So anybody who needs it will pick up whatever they can get if it can't be a Tesla, and then they'll get a Tesla later. Yes, 2025 is Death Valley. that really is it. That's
love it.
Yes. Let me see. Let's run through these questions, and we're over an hour, so we'll run through these, and then we'll step off of here. Support level for so right now, I'm running charts as we're on a very vertical upward trend. So right now, because we are post earnings and still going crazy high, no true support has been found yet. So if anything, I would say support's going to be 742 because it's the gap, and then 800. 800 proved a good support. Those are the two levels right now that I'm seeing. But other than that, I think support we're still waiting on to find a true support at the moment.
Tim, I just noticed your screen name here. Is that your second channel?
What's that? Where is it?
The I don't know if you can see it on your screen.
No, I don't see it at all. What does
It's
it say?
just it's
No.
TDYDYHQUTF.
That's one of my that's one of the subscribers. That's the
Oh,
that's the name
I
I
wasn't
was
paying.
gonna
Oh,
say.
okay, there you go. You know what happened? When the comments come up, it takes away our names. It
Right.
was right under you.
Okay.
I was like, I didn't even realize that.
I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Let me see.
Well, that guy is a cool name.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's awesome. There was when I was working at the gym one time, there was a guy who came in, and I was in charge of selling the personal training. And the guy who came in, his name, I think he was Turkish, and he had like 38 letters in his name, no vowels, like 9 Ks in his name. And I didn't know how to pronounce it, and I had to call the guy up, and he didn't answer, but I just wanted to learn how to say his name because it was so awesome.
That must have been fun for that first grade teacher.
Yes. Let's see. One question: can American people accept someone worth $1 trillion? That is an awesome question because Elon
that's
could
gonna be
realistically be the
problematic.
first trillionaire, well, that we know of. I mean, there may be some guys out there who there's conspiracy theories saying that there's trillionaires out there that we don't know about because they're keeping themselves secret. But as far as the first known trillionaire, possible. And everybody's like, oh, there's no way Tesla's going to get to $10 trillion by 2030, because that doesn't happen. I was like, well, yeah, but if you go back 20 years ago, there wasn't a $1 trillion company either. And now we have a handful of them. So,
yeah, I would say that I would say there's already one illegitimate $1 trillion man out there who happens to run a small, pretty large, I'd say soft superpower country that likes to invade neighbors. I won't say names, but as far as first legitimate trillionaire, this would be interesting.
Yes.
It'll definitely give a lot of ammo to certain politicians.
Oh, yeah. Tesla hit a 1,000 pre-split. Yeah, we were talking about this before. There's a couple of, I think hitting 1,000 pre-split is possible. If we continue this run, we can do it. But I have a feeling this run is going to end. But maybe we do hit 1,000 before it pulls back down. Tesla phones. So here's my thing about Tesla phones. I've heard about the Pi phone a lot from a lot of people. But most of the people I have heard it from are not the big names out there talking about Tesla. The fact that Sawyer Merritt doesn't talk about it. Rob Maurer doesn't talk about it. Stephen Mark Ryan, who's the bullest of bulls, does not talk about it.
Yeah,
that this is not something that is reality. And even Elon himself said that's backwards technology. So yes, smartphones are awesome, but you got to remember, smartphones came out 15 years ago. So for Elon, if we are going to have a technology like a smartphone coming out of Tesla, it's not going to come out for 10 years, and it's going to be something that's going to be tied to Neuralink. So you think about like driving your vehicle or your Optimus bot, because it's not even going to be a Tesla anymore. Think about Iron Man when he was talking to Jarvis. That's literally what Tesla would end up producing as far as an iPhone goes, or a cell phone of some sort. That would be the technology Tesla would do.
For now, the Pi phone is pure clickbait. It's exactly what we talked about earlier. That frontier is over. It's been conquered. They're on to the next frontier, because for Tesla to make a phone will be backwards. And it's like I said earlier, people trying to just make EVs now have to make it 10 times better to even stand a chance. It wouldn't make sense, especially with the potential for this company. And I think Elon Musk's ambitions are obviously much bigger. He's all about the physical world. So I think he's good on that. Maybe down the line, or like you said with Neuralink, if it's something new, a new iteration going 0 to 1, like Peter Thiel likes to talk about, then it would make sense. But yeah, I agree with what you had said.
Well, but I mean, realistically, Tesla does make a phone. It just has 4 wheels.
True. And that's the other thing. Yeah, true.
Let me see. Yes, Kyrov, on my delivery day, I absolutely will make my Model Y delivery day video, because that's going to be exciting. So right now, my delivery date range is November 9th, which is the day after my birthday, to January 4th, which is my sister's birthday. Quite ironic. But I have to do a little more research on this EV tax credit. I'm getting mixed information about if I take it this year, can I go retroactive to the end of last year, or do I have to take delivery after the 1st of 2023? So I'm waiting for this bill to actually pass, if it's going to pass, and get the final details before I make my decision. And I've got a few months anyway, so I'm not concerned about that. Yes. Well, Lou, I'm gonna, I have to buy all of you guys Teslas first. So I'll buy all of you guys Teslas first, and then I will use the rest to buy some of that. It's like, I'll be like Ron Barron. I'll go out there and I'm just gonna buy up a ton of shares.
We could start our own fleet of robotaxis and put an LLC on it.
That is my realistic plan. I am working on getting a robotaxi fleet at some point in the future.
Yeah,
this would just speed that up a lot.
If it happens, those that can afford it, that's got to be the easiest way to make an
Oh, yeah.
absolute killing.
Like, oh, by the way, I'm an Uber driver, but I don't drive.
I don't have to drive.
My car just doesn't
I have 10 cars.
Yeah, and I'm going to have my Optimus sitting there in the big factory that I have to plug in all the vehicles.
Yeah, he'll handle the charging. Yep.
Yes, I am getting a Cybertruck. I have mine on reservation. So I didn't reserve mine until December of last year. I'm kicking myself because I wasn't as knowledgeable about Tesla when they first came out with the Cybertruck. Stupid me. Yeah, looking back at history, 2020. Looking back, hindsight's 2020. But whatever it is, I was like, oh, that's awesome. It's cool. I don't know enough about it. Not going to put the money into it. I still had a lot of debt at the time. So even for me at that time, $100 was a lot. So I wasn't too concerned. So my reservation was in December. So I have a feeling I won't get mine until 2025 or 2026, depending on how quickly they can ramp it. But yes, I am definitely getting a Cybertruck. But then the Cybervan, when is that coming out? Because realistically, my point of getting a Cybertruck was to be able to travel the country and look at properties, to be able to invest in real estate and travel all over the place, because I love that, visiting you guys, visiting family and friends. But if I can do it in a van, that's even better. So I don't even know if I would need the Cybertruck if I can get the Cybervan. So, man, these hard decisions I got to make, really difficult. Let's see here. Yeah, there's another subscriber I have. Shoot, I can't remember his name, and I apologize. But he's in Pennsylvania, and he actually puts up. He's an electrician, and he just put up a huge charging station. And at work, we just got a magazine. We get a rental magazine for all the heavy equipment, and they're discussing charging stations in there. And I meant to take it home this weekend and totally forgot. But they have a whole article in there talking about it. So like even in these magazines talking about rental equipment, they are getting into EV charging stations. It is out there. It is becoming mainstream. Let me see. Finish these questions up and then we'll get off of here because it's already getting late.
Thanks for watching, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry. I appreciate that. Steve, you're in Texas now. Awesome. I hope you have a great show tonight, man. I love seeing the pictures of you on Facebook. If you guys don't follow Steve, he travels the country playing country music, like 90s country music. It's pretty awesome. I can't wait till he comes to my area so I can go and watch him.
I'll be checking that out. I see a bunch of people from Texas here. How far are you guys from? I'll be visiting a buddy, and one of my best friends is in Del Rio. He's in the Air Force. That's like way down in Texas, though. I don't know where all these other Galveston County.
Texas is a big state because you can get to Texas and drive for 12 hours and still be in Texas.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Cal, I'm getting boring gray. Boring dark gray is the color I went with. It's the same color car that I have right now. I am not always one that likes. It's weird. I'm either I want to be in the shadows and not seen at all, or I want to be seen very well. That's it. There is no in between. There is just either I am okay being seen by everyone, or I don't want to be seen by anyone. So I go with a plain gray. But if I do get a Model S or something like that, or obviously the Cybertruck, I'm going to stand out. That is definitely, you can see me coming. All right, that is it. That is all of our comments. Thank you guys, everyone, for being on tonight. This was awesome as always. I love these Friday evenings. Thank you, Vin. If you guys don't follow him, check out his channel, Investment Club. I put the link down in the description as well. You guys want to go over there, subscribe to his channel, give him some support and love. Otherwise, I will see you guys all later. Vin, thank you so much, and we will see you all next time.
Thanks, guys.